Good evening, everyone. Welcome tonight to tonight's meeting of the Assembly. I'd like all of you to take note of a bit of a change in our agenda. Exec has decided to experiment with a new structure. We have switched up business and reports. So when it comes time to make important decisions and discuss and vote on things, we'll have more energy. It's not 8 o'clock. People wanting to get out of here. So we're going to try this tonight. So we'll start with attendance. Secretary Brown.
Representative DeBaz. Representative Williams. Representative Gallo. Representative Smith-Devon. Representative Brubaker. Representative Malloy. Representative Moeller.
President voting.
Representative Sabe. Representative Fitch. Representative Smith-Theo. Representative McCormick. Representative Zhu.
Present in here, or in voting.
Representative Heck. Representative Wu.
President voting.
Representative Thompson.
Present voting.
Representative McHenry.
President voting.
Representative Ladelfa. Representative Thomas. Representative Butcher. Representative Wetterston. Representative Cole. Representative Komeyer. Representative Lindell. Representative Liu. Representative Tingley. Representative Lee. Representative Ruska. Representative Feaster.
Present voting.
Representative Payne. Representative Stump.
Present voting.
Representative Shaw.
Present voting.
Representative Alvarado. Representative Toomey.
Present and voting.
Representative Gladys. Representative Rangaswamy. Representative Ridgway. Okay, and Vice President, Speaker Denzik.
Present.
Treasurer Schloff. Present. Treasurer Chuang. Parliamentary McKee.
Present.
Vice President Dooner. Vice President Cruz. Vice President Cummins. Vice President Shaw. Vice President Hale. President Agarwal.
Okay. Do we have any guests tonight? If there are, would you please stand and we'll just have you introduce yourself. We'll start this way and just move across.
Running to the College of Arts and Sciences to be representative.
I'm Patrick Vaughn, I'm an at-large representative and speaker.
I'm Elena Spencer. I'm Larissa Hess, and we're with the student community.
Thank you.
I'm Lauren Huffman. I was told to stand, so I'm standing. I don't know. I'm just here. I don't know. That's.
Lauren is a potential member at large. All right. Thank you, and if you will rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I now defer to President Agarwal to introduce our guest speaker tonight.
Also, as a reminder, since we do have a guest speaker, please either turn off or silence all electronic devices and give your full attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're going to kick off tonight's meeting with a discussion with Vice President Rick Bischoff from Enrollment Management. The format for the discussion tonight is VP Bischoff will start with some opening remarks, and I do have the list of questions that that I opened up to all of you to contribute to. They're very focused. It's great. They're great questions, and so I will be asking VP Bischoff each one of those one by one, and whatever time we have left, we will open it up to the Assembly for you guys to ask any more questions that you might have. So with that, Vice President Bischoff, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me this evening. It's always fun to come and talk with you about what's going on at the university. President Agarwal was kind enough to send along the clip to last meeting and tell me exactly, minute 88, where to go to see your conversation from last week. Let me start very briefly and give you a little bit of the kind of history and thinking that led up to the change. One of the big drivers, and I would say really the primary driver in the change, has been the change in the demographics of the entering class. If you look back 5 years, 55% of our students were from Ohio. Now, this year's entering class, 37% from Ohio. And it's not just Ohio that we need to think about. If you go back 5 years and you look at 55% from Ohio, if you were to then look at Pittsburgh and look at Michigan, you would have a very, very large percentage of students coming from relatively close by in terms of driving. 5 years ago, 2.5% of our students were international students. It was about 22, 23 international students. Now in an entering class, we're typically looking at 8 or 9% international students, typically 80+ international students in a class. And so there's been a tremendous shift in kind of where students are coming from when they come to Case Western Reserve University. And this causes kind of two things to happen. One is a very practical, logistical issue where we have increasing pressure when we send information out to prospective students about registering for their orientation session, increasing pressure for students who want to come to the third session, which is in late August, rather than the first 2 sessions in July. We actually tell students that if you're within 150 miles of campus, you can't come to that third session. There was conversation last spring about widening that radius. I think it was to 250 miles. 250 miles is a long way from campus. And so one of our first interactions with students once they decide to come here is to say, no, you can't come to the session that you want to come to. You have to come to one of the other sessions. And so we know for a percentage of our students we're not serving them well. Practically also, with that push towards that third session, it creates some pressures around registration and how registration happens. We are at a point where even if we were continuing with the same orientation welcome days model, we would be needing to look at how we register students for classes, and not just register, but how we advise students for registration to move that earlier in the summer to give us more time to do some of the things that go on behind the scenes in terms of creating class sections and things like that. So that's kind of one set of issues that is going on. There's another set of issues that happens with the change in demographics and the way students sort into the different orientation sessions that has created increasingly different experiences for students depending on which orientation session they attend. If you look at the first 2, at those July orientation sessions, by and large, they don't include international students in those sessions, and they tend to be much, much more regional. And yes, there are plenty of examples of students who come from far away, who come to those summer orientation sessions. But if you look at the geographic demographics of those populations, they're very, very different. What that means for a student who comes in for orientation is if you come in July, you experience this as a much more regional university, and you don't have an opportunity to meet the international students in those July sessions the way you do in August. If you come in August, you experience this place as a much more national university and a much more international university, simply because your first experience on this campus is with a much, much broader range of students. And so, that's one of the things that, we've talked about in kind of going about making this change. There are some other things that we think about in making this change that I think are, in some ways, in terms of driving the decision, less important, but I think are actually really critically important as we think about how we are best serving our students. And one of those is quite simply the financial impact of students coming for those sessions in the middle of July. We know for some families that is a real financial strain to get here. Either parents taking off work to come with their sons and daughters in the middle of the week. Parents have to make choices. Do I come in the middle of the summer to the orientation when we're running the parent orientation session, or do I come when I'm really going to drop my son or daughter off to college? We don't, when we do financial aid packages for students, we don't budget 2 trips to campus. And so these are expenses, particularly as you look at the past few years when families have been really stretched financially, these are expenses that families are picking up. And so I think there are some advantages to families in terms of lowering the cost of actually, just getting here to campus before that first day of class. This is not a decision. I mean, I think to some students this feels like, oh, this came from nowhere and all of a sudden this happened. I have been talking with Vice President Nichols, with Vice Provost Feek, and with Dean Wolkowitz for months and months and months and months, maybe not quite a year, but close to it, very long time. As Amanda McCarthy has talked with people about kind of reviewing this past year's orientation, this has been a topic of conversation. We've talked with a number of students, particularly orientation leaders and students who have been very close to the orientation program. So certainly, if students feel like this has just been suddenly dropped upon them, for that I apologize. That is not the intent at all. We actually thought that we were getting a lot of feedback before we actually made the final decision to move ahead with this. We have not answered every question that we have. I expect that there will be some questions on the list where my answer will be, I don't know. When you're making a change like this, the threshold isn't we've answered every question and every complexity that might come up. You simply need to move to the point where you're confident that you've identified those issues that are going to be most significant, and you're confident that you are going to be able to solve those problems that arise. And we've talked a lot about that and a lot about the concerns and tensions. One of the biggest is around advising and registration for classes. And we will not, probably shouldn't say will not, but I will say there has been no discussion, and there has been, I think, near uniform agreement that we can't simply take the current advising and registration model and shove that all into the week before classes begin. Anybody I've talked to that strikes us as a really stupid idea. It just won't work. And so what we're talking about is how do we, technology is a wonderful thing, because technology may give us some opportunities to still give students the kind of personal interaction and contact with faculty around advising and be able to register students for classes and have students register with the appropriate advice during the summer. The other issue that I think is near and dear to all of us and just has never been a suggestion. We don't just take, and move 3 groups of students into one and say everything is going to be 3 times as large. One of the things that is very important about orientation is the way in which students build friendships during that time. Orientation groups of 30 or 40 students seems less likely to me that that's going to happen in groups that large. And so maintaining the small size of orientation groups is very, very important to us. We have started already doing focus groups with first-year students who have just gone through orientation and welcome days, and having conversations with them. What works, what doesn't work, what would you want to make sure that you preserve? What are some of those things, what are things that you wish you would have gotten in orientation? So with that, I'm getting tired of listening to myself talk. And so let's find out what questions.
And actually, you did address quite a few things.
Good.
So I was here crossing out stuff. No. So we'll start with some preliminary questions, and one question the students have is this summer 2012 implementation set in stone? And is it at all possible to delay the model change one more year? And if not, why not?
The, set in stone might be a little harsh, but very nearly. And one of the reasons for that is tied to contracts for the residential college coordinators, for RAs. I mean, there are a whole slew of things that have to happen very, very early in order to get this lined up and in order to make things work well. And so that's one of the reasons why we need to make the decision now and not, in January, February, that is simply too late.
And you mentioned that you had some focus groups with first-year students, and this was after the change was decided upon. How did you include students in making this decision prior to its official confirmation, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that, from my perspective, I felt was actually fairly widely known. If we were trying to keep this a secret, it was the worst-kept secret on campus, I assure you. And a lot of the consultation with students went through Amanda McCarthy and, her conversations with students around orientation, and kind of seeking feedback from them. One of the challenges, and this is one example, but there are many issues that we work with where, kind of what we know and what we're familiar with feels much more comfortable to people. And when you go out and consult people and you say, gee, is the experience you had, better or worse than this alternative plan? A lot of times it's like, I like what I had, because you know what that is and the unknown is a little bit scary. The reality is that this is a university that underachieves when it comes to retaining students. And that's a problem. Our retention of students from the first to the second year for this year was 93%. That is maybe the best it has ever been. That is still lower than it ought to be. We graduate typically low 80% of our students in 6 years. That is lower than it ought to be. When you look at the caliber of students who come to this university, we ought to be in the upper 80s in terms of 6-year graduation rates. And that is one of the things that we're trying to attack in changing the model. And kind of the other piece, which is unsaid here, is in creating and better coordinating the first-year experience. Right now, we have a job posted as a first-year experience director, somebody who is going to come in and think not just about orientation, but more broadly about the way in which we support first-year students on this campus and work with the other resources that we have in place. We have a lot of resources in place, absolutely, but somebody who's going to come and help us to better coordinate those efforts.
As a follow-up, how about partnering offices? What was their say in this decision? Offices like Housing and Residence Life, Access Services, Food Services, Student Activities and Leadership, you name it.
Yeah, there's a lot of consultation with the various partners on campus. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everybody was wildly enthusiastic about change. That would not be true. One of the things that is very important is that the recommendation to make this change came from me, Vice President Nichols, Vice Provost Feek, and Dean Wolkowitz. Between the four of us, most of the orientation partners report through one of us. It's very important. I mean, I'm going to look to see if Glenn agrees with me. I mean, I think amongst the four of us, there was no dissent in terms of the necessity of making a change in the model. I mean, we had conversations around challenges, but everybody was on board and we didn't have to twist anybody's arm.
In fact, with this trend for greater numbers of students wanting to come to the third session, we've been reviewing the summer model for 2 or 3 years and looking at models at other places. And even before we got into this discussion, A. Krause had done a benchmarking study to look at orientation models at our peer and national institutions. So it's, there's been this kind of mounting pressure of dealing with a large number of students in 3 unequal sections.
We're going to move into our focused questions, and we had a question about social and community development, and you had addressed already actually the question about if we're going to keep the small group interaction. So thank you for that. So we'll just move straight on to our
Can I add one thing on the small group interaction? This came up last night in a focus group that we did with a group of first-year students. One of the things that happens by having all of the first-year students on campus, when we think about those orientation groups, we can be much more intentional about how they are formed. And I don't know how they are going to be formed. I don't have the answer, but it does give us the opportunity to be very intentional and decide, do we want to form orientation groups that span the residential colleges because we want to build bridges amongst the residential colleges? Do we want to build orientation groups on floors because we want to strengthen those relationships? Do we want to build them within, an individual house within the residential college or within the residential college? We can be much more intentional about what we do. I don't know what the answer is in terms of what we ought to do, but it creates tremendous opportunity to be much more thoughtful and deliberate about those relationships. And unprompted, this question came up in this focus group last night. It was very interesting. And I see one of the students who was in the focus group last night. So if I misrepresent the conversation, you'll help me. I found it absolutely fascinating, this notion that kind of in the summer with the orientation groups, the sense that, well, I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know where these people are going to live. I don't know if these people are going to be my friends, and not really being willing to fully invest at that point because you didn't know, if that investment was going to be worthwhile in the long run. And I thought that was a really interesting question and ties into this notion that we can be, I don't know what the answer is, but we can at least be thoughtful and very deliberate about what we do.
So for some logistics questions, students were wondering how this complete freshman class coming in August, at the end of August, will affect the move-in and welcome days for the upper class students.
Elaborate.
Okay, so well, at this time of the year, all of the students are coming in at
Right.
once. I know one concern that was brought up is sometimes the upper class students help the freshmen move in, and so we might not have as many upperclassmen that are on campus that early that are ready to help move the entire class in. And welcome days, of course, is a big tradition on campus. And how might that change, if not for upperclassmen, but for the whole campus?
Yeah. Well, and our focus really is on first-year students and new transfer students, which I think is appropriate. I mean, we need to think about kind of how it impacts our upper-class students, but we need to make decisions that are driven by the experience that first-year students have and making sure that they have maximum benefit of that. Move-in day, it still won't be moving the entire class in at one time. Case Ventures will continue to run. That is a group of students that will arrive early and won't necessarily be moving in at that point in time. Fall athletes will already be on campus. They won't be moving in at that time. International students will already be here on campus and won't be moving in. And so you're really looking at a difference of moving, on move-in day, moving in the 2 orientation sessions, which was a large number of, the 2 summer orientation sessions, which would have been a large number of students, and the difference between moving in, probably 70 to 80% of the class on that day. So the incremental change isn't as big as it sounds. Will it take some more careful planning in terms of how we move students in? Absolutely, it will take more careful planning. That is one of the reasons why, as we have set the dates for orientation, move-in day will be on Sunday, not during the week. We were initially thinking kind of start on Monday, through the following Sunday, but then we thought, logistically, traffic's a little quieter on a Sunday in University Circle. So if we can just eliminate all of the normal commuter traffic to campus, it's going to be a whole lot easier on parents, not just getting in and unloading, but also parking and all of those things on campus.
And you briefly mentioned athletes, and that was also a concern of the students. The fate of the orientation experience for athletes who, you said that they would be coming early, however, sometimes these students have practices during that session. I'm sure there'll be freshman athletes as well. And if you could also maybe address the fate of nursing students?
Yes.
Also have-
Nursing students, I don't know what the answer is to that yet. I mean, they go through several days of training that traditionally, my understanding is, has happened during that last orientation session. And that we're going to have to figure out how we do that. I don't know what the answer is there. One of the things that the kind of combined orientation welcome days and really when you look at schedules and you look at kind of dead spots in the schedule, if you look at the third orientation session, which essentially ends on Tuesday evening, and the welcome days, which doesn't really start until late Wednesday afternoon, there's almost a full day of dead time for the students who attend that third orientation session. You end up with essentially 2 additional days that you can do programming. And we now have a longer period of time over which we can stretch those things that are either required or really highly desirable that we have participation in. And we will work very closely with the athletic department to schedule those things at times that are going to be most convenient for athletes. Because we don't want to create a situation where, oh, the athletes are all over doing their thing and they're not really part of the class. That would not be a good thing, would not be helping to achieve some of the goals of the change. So that's going to take some coordination with the athletic department to figure out kind of from their end, are there ways that they can consolidate, when kind of the intense practices are for students so that we can then build some programming around that and maximize their participation in those aspects that are going to be most useful to them.
Thank you. And our last question has to do with leadership. It's a 2-part question. Who is leading the transition in this next 6 months? And if this is a new director, someone who is foreign to our campus, do you feel that this will be enough time for them to understand Case Western, the climate of Case Western Reserve, and be effective in leading this transition?
Yes. For right now, Amanda McCarthy, who joined us last spring and who has gone through the orientation, is leading the orientation effort. And from my perspective has been doing an absolute terrific job, and to be honest, doing an absolutely terrific job in very difficult circumstances, because she has gone from being a part of student affairs, she's been from being a part of student affairs to kind of feeling like she was in limbo, to now being solidly over in Wolstein Hall as a part of enrollment management. And without a full-time director that she is reporting to. And so I have been working closely with Amanda as we go through this transition. But my struggle is usually to keep up with Amanda and move at the pace that she would like to move. We will be bringing in a new first-year experience director. They may or may not be the operational lead of orientation. That is something that they will come in and define in terms of what their responsibilities will be and what the responsibilities of people on their staff will be. I have great confidence that we are going to be able to find somebody who is a professional. One of the things, whether you do the kind of work that I do, whether you do student affairs work, whether you're leading orientation efforts, one of the skills that you develop is the ability to come into a new community and work hard to understand that community very quickly, because communities are very different, and you have to learn what's important, what's valued, what's not valued in those communities, and you have to be very careful. So I have tremendous confidence that we're going to be able to hire somebody and get them on board in time to kind of get things together and have a great program.
Thank you very much. At this time, I will open the floor to the assembly to ask any questions. We'll take about 5 minutes to ask some questions, and I will return the moderator role back to Speaker Rudensick.
Representative Williams.
Yes. Hi, Vice President Bischoff. Two questions for you. First, about this new transition to having a first-year coordinator experience just all around. It sounds like a really great opportunity to really help have this very good cohesion. Kind of as the program is starting in its infant stages, there are going to be a lot of growing pains, and we're just kind of wondering if maybe delaying this change of orientation and getting a lot of more of these details worked out about what is the first year experience going to look like in the future, and what is orientation going to look like together, and how do we glue those together? Would it help delaying it at all to help eliminate any of those pains?
I mean, clearly my judgment is no, or I would have recommended that we wait a year. Outside of this specific challenge, I'm generally not somebody who wants to wait a year for something. And waiting a year presumes that the tension points that we have in changing to this new model are somehow worse than the tension points that we have under the current model. And the tension points that we have with the current model are serious. And, we could not simply continue with the current model without making changes. So the choice isn't between current model with no changes and the new model. It's current model with modifications, and I look at that and say, okay, why are we modifying something that we believe is going to go away? Let's jump in with both feet and do this well, and make that change. Did I answer both?
Yeah, this is actually a second
Oh,
question.
you haven't asked the second question yet. Okay, good.
The second question, you were talking about wanting to help increase retention rates, in that this 83 or low 80s is whatever it is kind of not very good. Over the summer, one of the benefits of having those July sessions, I know I was a July session, I really wasn't sure about CASE at the time, is that it really helps get students excited about coming, and that there kind of comes this potential to lose students over the summer if you don't have anything there to other schools that they hopefully got, they got waitlisted at. It was like, well, CASE was kind of my backup school, and I didn't get in, and so how does the the new August models help that, or what are the plans in place to help eliminate that?
One of the ways that has been phrased is, this multiple part orientation model helps with summer melt. That's what we call the students who tell us they're coming and then don't show up in August. That's melt. And a couple of answers there, and then I'll answer specifically your question. One, summer melt is a function of choices. And so mostly, if a student doesn't have another alternative, which typically means they've double deposited, which is bad, that is frowned upon, or they're admitted from a waiting list elsewhere. I mean, the reality is there are a handful of institutions in this country where if they go heavily to their waiting list, we're going to lose students because they're higher than we are in the pecking order of universities. And that's the primary thing that's going to drive summer melt. We're taking this concern very seriously. One of the things that I have talked with the Alumni Association about is rather than doing our traditional summer send-offs, where we collect students kind of in their own community, connect them with alums, connect them with each other at the end of the summer, what if we were to do summer welcomes and run events, in May or very early June to bring students together in their own community, give them a chance to connect with each other early in the summer and welcome them to Case Western Reserve. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, or if that's something that will happen or won't happen, but we're taking this seriously. We also know from talking with students that the summer orientation sessions actually cuts both ways. There are a group of students for whom they come to the summer orientation, they're wildly excited, and they can't wait to get back here in August. But there is also a group of students who come to the summer orientation session. Perhaps their orientation group isn't a group that gels the way we wish it were to gel, and they leave here full of anxiety because it wasn't all they had built it up and dreamed it to be, and now they're very anxious and worried, and they have another month to sit home and be worried about. So, I think that's something we need to think about. I think there are some things that we can do, particularly through technology, to engage students more directly early in the summer and to help them be a part of the community early on to help address that. But I don't see that as something that's like, whoa, you know, if we lose that, you know, then everything else is going to be a failure.
President Agarwal.
Okay, at this time, in the interest of time, we will end this discussion. However, if you have any other questions for Vice President Bischoff, please send them to me. I am more than happy to compile another list to pass on. And with that, thank you so much for coming this evening.
And I would also be happy to take questions from people offline, and particularly if there are things you're concerned about or suggestions you have, we want to hear them. This is not about, you know, we don't want to hear a student voice. We absolutely want to hear a student voice in this, and we will continue to interact with students and collect feedback. So thank you so much for inviting me tonight.
Okay, thank you. President Agarwal.
Okay, this time I'm going to make a motion to make an amendment to the agenda. I'd like to move all finance-related business to the beginning of old business, as Vice President Shah has an appeals meeting at 8 p.m. for mass funding, and we'd like to accommodate her bills.
Is there any dissent? Okay, all right. With that, we're in old business. Does the speaker have a motion? Representative Williams.
I move to remove Bill B 21-11 from the table.
Okay. Second. Okay, points for discussion on Bill B 21-11. This is the recognition bill for Student Community Covenant. I know we have guests from the group. Would they like to make comments?
Yes, please.
Yes.
As the student community at Covenant.
Better?
Should we sit?
Whatever you like.
Okay. As the student community at Covenant, we offer students a unique Presbyterian community that is founded on the ideas of acceptance and contemporary mindset, while offering the option to enjoy traditional Presbyterian services that highlight the talents of students through choir, bell choirs, and outstanding volunteer opportunities. We're also really excited to have Dr. Garrett as our faculty advisor. He's a faculty member at the Department of Music here at Case. Our student-run organization has been active for the past 3 years, and we are now looking for acceptance and recognition on campus in order to make our activities and facilities more available to students on campus. Inclusivity is at the heart of Presbyterianism, and our diverse student organization at Covenant is integrated into a multi-generational Presbyterian community with a contemporary and accepting mindset. As a student-run community, we have been financially independent for the past 3 years, and therefore are not asking for financial assistance from USG. But rather, we wish to make our resources and our community more accessible to students through recognition on campus. We would like to thank you guys for considering accepting Student Community at Covenant as a USG recognized Presbyterian organization on campus so that we can better serve the students at CWRU.
Thank you. Further points for discussion? Representative Moeller.
Everything makes so much more sense now. Anyway, yeah.
Okay. Representative Feaster.
Yeah, I would agree with Kevin on this one. But so 2 things just to clarify. It's my understanding that you guys are the first Presbyterian group on campus. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, cool. And then the other thing, so you guys you aren't intending to pursue funding from USG?
No, I mean, I think there is like an initial funding agreement.
Yeah.
Obviously,
$50.
For the community.
Right.
Much in a similar way that we have our student benches already. But not really, not any additional funding. Because as Clarissa mentioned, we've been self-run for the past 3 years. We're just seeking recognition so that it's easier to do things like post flyers and participate in the student fair and the study over, so that we can make our activities
Thank you.
Representative Moeller.
Just a question. The proposed amendment that I think Jaisal talked about last week, where we were scratching interdisciplinary journal of global development for whatever reason, is that still in effect?
Yes, I've been waiting to sort of jump in with a point of order without interrupting too much. So as a point of order, be it resolved, Clause 1, Section B has been removed as of an amendment last week.
Representative Brubaker.
Call the previous question.
Is there any dissent to moving into the vote? Okay. Parliamentary McKee.
Do all elected representatives have an iClicker? Does anybody need one? Okay,
President Agarwal.
please meet me at the middle of the room.
Okay.
Okay, then you may begin voting. As always, A is yes, B is no, and C, D, or E all are abstaining. Okay, I'll go until 20 seconds. Oh, stop.
All right. Bill B 21-11 passes. Your group is now recognized. Congratulations. Speaker will entertain a motion. Vice President Hale.
I move to remove Bill B 21-12.
Okay. Points for discussion on Bill B 21-12. Any points for discussion? Oh, okay.
It was sent out in the email prior with the agenda, so.
Give you all a moment to look over this. Representative Moeller.
Call the previous question.
Any dissent? Okay. We're going to move into the vote then. Once Parliamentarian McKee is ready. Okay. You may begin voting.
Again, as always, A is yes, B is no, and C, D, and E are all to abstain. We'll do it. One more. Go until the 30-second mark.
Okay. Bill B 21-12 passes. President Agarwal, when you amended the agenda, did you mean to move the new business items into old business as well, or no?
Excuse me. I did, but I think we can wait. We are going to have the Finance Committee, the majority of the Finance Committee step out for the appeals session, but we will have someone remaining to introduce the bill, unless someone would like the bill to be introduced now.
Okay. All right. Then we're going to move into the nominations and election portion of tonight's business. Are there any nominations for the nursing representative position? Okay, well, I have one, Tristan Weber. Any further nominations? Vice President Cruz.
Can I nominate Ellen Sunderland?
Any others? Vice President Hale. Granted. Any further nominations? Okay. Any nominations for the commuter representative? Didn't think so. Okay. Do we have any final nominations for the College of Arts and Sciences representatives? Representative Moeller. Well, okay, so wait, what's the problem? Any further nominations for the College of Arts and Sciences positions? Representative Smith.
As we are, yeah, as we are intending to, do elections for this position tonight, they would have to be here to be considered. So, yes.
I'm aware we have one guest that is running tonight, correct? Yes. Are there any other people that are running, that intend to run for the position? Okay. Then because there are two positions, what we are going to do for tonight's procedure is go through the election for our one candidate that is present, then reopen nominations afterwards, just so everything proceeds easily, and we don't have to reopen them next week. Yeah. So if you do have nominations, you can make them now, even if they are not here. Okay. Representative Brubaker. Representative Moeller.
Much pressure. Can I think about it?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't have to accept tonight. Okay. Any final nominations? Okay. Representative McHenry.
I'd like to nominate Patrick Vaughn.
Mr. Vaughn? You can, okay. Representative Smith.
I'd like to nominate Danielle Thornsberry.
Any others? Okay. Do I have a motion to close nominations? Second. Is there any dissent? All right. Then if our candidate for the evening, Ms. Radcliffe, am I pronouncing that correctly? Yes. If you would please approach the podium. You're going to have 2.5 minutes to speak and present yourself and then take questions. You can start whenever you're ready.
All right, I'll start now. Hello, my name is Brittany Radcliffe. I am a second-year medical anthropology major. This past summer, I was an orientation leader. I am also currently vice president of STAND, which is a student-led division of the Genocide Intervention Network, and I am also on a subcommittee for Faculty Senate. At this time, I'd like to open for questions.
Questions for our speaker.
Do I acknowledge you?
Representative Mueller.
Brittany, if you could change one thing about the College of Arts and Sciences, what would it be?
I think for me, there's, within the College of Arts and Sciences, we're all going for BA degrees, but there's still a split between people in social sciences and people going for BA degrees within maybe chemistry or biology. And I think that represents a larger divide on campus between humanities and hard sciences, and I think that that's something that I'd really like to tackle, first on small scale, then hopefully large scale.
President Agarwal.
Have you identified a standing committee of USG that you'd like to participate in?
I have. I would really like academic affairs or finance.
Representative McHenry.
Which subcommittee of the Faculty Senate are you on, and what initiatives is this subcommittee working on as of right now?
I am actually on the Aid and Admissions Committee. So right now, we haven't really done a lot. We've only had one meeting, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm not really, we're sort of still defining who we are and what we do. I know we look over, I think CASE gives out one full ride scholarship to a first-year student, and we look over those, and then sort of people that maybe we wouldn't have initially accepted into case, and then we sort of, maybe they have extraordinary circumstances or something like that, and we look at their applications for admittance.
Representative Feaster.
Okay. First of all, some of my friends had you as an OL, and they say you're awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Second of all, sure. Second of all, so you mentioned you're in a lot of activities. So have you, like, I'm assuming you've considered, like, how USG would factor into your schedule time-wise?
Yes.
And so you feel like you could handle that good?
Yes.
Well.
I do think I could handle it well. Oh no, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I can keep talking. Okay. I am extremely organized, freakishly so. So this is something that I have considered. I wouldn't have accepted a nomination without thinking it through thoroughly.
Awesome, thank you.
Colleen, I saw you had a hand up. We have time for one more question. Okay, all right. Well, thank you. If you could step out, please, while we move into discussion. Excuse me. Okay. And if we can turn the recording equipment off, thanks. Okay. All right. Representative Moeller.
I'm a good friend of Brittany's, and regardless, this should really be a no.
Vote C. She does need a majority vote to gain the position.
Go until 21 seconds.
Okay, great. All right, wonderful. Colleen, you can let her in. Congratulations to our new representative. All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion to reopen nominations for the College of Arts and Sciences. Okay, any dissent then? No, okay, nominations are open. Is there anyone that would like to make further nominations before we move on? Okay. All right, then we're in new business. We have one bill and nominations for the election commissioner. Do I have a motion? Representative Thompson.
Move to introduce Bill B 21-13.
Second. Is there a speaker in the pro?
There is.
Representative Smith. Thank you.
All right. Obviously, I am not Vice President Shaw. Bill 21-13 is to recognize Cigar Club. And they basically want to go out, take a group of students and go out into the community and learn about cigar culture. One of their major points in their presentation to us this past Friday was that they want to go meet colorful people who are in this culture and learn all about it from them. I'm going to nip the age/tobacco issue in the bud right now. They are fully aware of all the laws. Underage, 18-year-old and under the age of 18, will not be allowed to smoke or buy, or they will not be given any cigars at any point during meetings or whatnot. So I'm open to points.
Points for speaker. Representative Shaw.
Yeah, how is this different from USG representing like a 21 and older drinking club
Recognition, I think what you mean, we're not allowed to fund alcohol. We're not allowed to provide funds to alcohol, and that's the role that we mainly look at. So like this, we will not be giving any funding for cigars. It will be like, mainly they just want funding for advertising and food and drinks. Okay.
Any other points for Representative Smith? President Agarwal.
A follow-up on Representative Shaw's question. We also are not allowed to recognize groups that are not open to all campus students in terms of, so you can't say 21 or older club. It would have to be open to all students, but they would have to adhere to some kind of age, and they can't discriminate against age, sex, whatever. That's an exception for a cappella groups that are specifically glee club, men's glee club, and women's glee club. If there's a men's glee club, there has to be a women's one in existence.
Representative Wetterston.
So I actually know all the guys in Cigar Club because they tried to recruit me. They're actually a bunch of really good guys that appreciate cigars as a fine item, like a fine wine type of thing. And I wouldn't, if I were you, shoot this down because you think it's, oh, a bunch of people trying to smoke. They really do appreciate types of cigars, the culture behind cigars. They expressed this to me, so just consider that.
As a point of order, we are in questions for the speaker, not discussion quite yet. So,
okay. President Agarwal.
Has the group addressed any? There's a lot of liability and risk involved in this organization, and while they do say that they're not going to allow their younger members to smoke, what is preventing them from saying, oh, no one's looking, you can just try some right now? Do they really do they understand how severe the risks are, the liabilities are, and were they really confident that they could prevent their younger members or ensure that their younger members will not participate in the actual smoking?
I believe they are. This has been on our the finance committee's to-do list for almost, this would be week 3. So, when this first came across us, we asked them to come in because we weren't really sure if they were aware of the full law behind it. And when they came in, they did an excellent job presenting, and they are fully aware. In my opinion, I defer to any finance committee members who are present if they'd like to say anything, or Colleen. She's got her hand up.
Colleen. Representative Malloy.
You mentioned that they intend to go out into the community to explore this culture. Can you expand on exactly, if you know, what they mean by go out into the community?
I know there's someone can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a cigar shop on Mayfield, and they have a private room and everything, and of course, when the group would go there, they'd be under Ohio law, and we checked into that. They're totally aware of that. They also have a Sages professor who is interested in this culture, and he is very interested in working with them and teaching them, and they believe they have another couple contacts as well.
Okay. I'm just going to take 1 or 2 more points for Representative Smith. President Agarwal.
Is this Sages advisor, their Sages professor, they're going to be their group advisor?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can't answer that, sorry.
Thank you.
Representative Feaster.
Yeah, okay, so
I don't know how finance committee exactly looks at this, but what's the difference between like funding a group that spends money on cigars and funding the cigars? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you
Yeah.
give the club money, then like, I feel like that's indirectly funding like the smoking anyway.
So when they when they go and spend out the money and they want disbursements, they want they want to get their money back from their account. It's going to have to be for certain items that they requested funding for. So if they try to like put in a receipt for cigars, we're not going to be giving them money back for it. So there's no way within the financial system that they're going to be getting money for this. And if you'd like to know more about it or how we look at clubs, feel free to come to a finance committee meeting or stop one of the members. We would be more than happy to go over with you because everyone in here needs to know that. So you can go out and educate your constituents.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Representative Smith.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a speaker in the comments? Okay, then we're in discussion. Points for discussion, we're going to spend 5 minutes. I'm going to set a limit to 5 minutes for discussion. Representative Malloy.
I think the point she was getting at is that if they pay for food by themselves anyway, and then we start paying for their food, that opens up more of their own money for like cigars. So, so I still don't know how I feel, but you have to understand that if we do fund them in any way, that does free up more of their own money for cigars. So we are really indirectly funding it. That being said, I think one of the things we tout to first-year students all the time is that if you have an interest here at Case, you can start up a new student group and have people share your interest. And a real big part of me thinks that this is a great idea and is really at the heart of that, to let people share an interest that they have with people.
Vice President Cruz.
I'm saying this not because I personally think it's a bad idea, but I feel like a lot of the student population, when they hear about this, is going to say things like, what's the difference between funding this and, you know, a drinking club? And I feel like, I don't know if there's a way to publicize that, and if so, it's probably my job. But I feel like the ground rules need to be very well known, I guess, because I'm concerned about USG's image. That I feel like people are going to think we're encouraging people to smoke underage, or, you know, all sorts of nonsense like that. I'm just concerned, I guess.
President Agarwal.
Maybe it might be of interest to the group to a name change, because when people read it firsthand, they won't start to make assumptions. Maybe they'll take the initiative to explore more and find out about what the group is actually about. If they go on Collegiate Link, they'll see a description where it says, you know, a group of members that are interested in such and such. So when we will be tabling this, I would ask the Finance Committee to maybe ask the founder of the group if they would entertain a name change.
I'd like to remind the Assembly that we will not be voting on this bill tonight. We're just going to be tabling it. So this will not be, you know, the be-all, end-all discussion on this. Representative Williams.
This is kind of going along I think President Agarwal addressed a fair bit of what I was about to say, but I think when I see this group, I know we asked them this last week and during the Finance Committee, and they gave us an answer, but I don't really see why this needs USG's approval. That I don't see why we need to give them official recognition to actually go out and smoke cigars. I believe that they identified the fact that it would give them more legitimacy and give them access to advertising, which to me is something that they can do anyways. And I know right now Vice President Hale, committee is working on an initiative with smoking on campus in general, and I feel like that goes contrary to that. And I feel like if we were to pass this bill, even though it's not on campus, I feel like it goes contrary to that.
Representative Brubaker.
So 2 things. First of all, Finance Committee is also working on the smoking, not finance, Student Life works on the smoking initiative, also in the interest of smoking students. We're not suppressing smoking, we're trying to balance their interests with other interests. So USG does not have a position against or for smoking, we have a position for students. Secondly, we're making a big deal about, we're funding a cigar club, but Finance Committee already funds a firearms club. Now, I believe that is a recognized student group, am I not correct? So to counter the point about people that are all money to spend on cigars, well, if I join Firearms Club, I have more money to spend on bullets. You fund bullets. Exactly. Sorry. So I guess, in a sense, it's not really our place to tell students what to do with their own personal money. You know, if they want to have this group and meet and promote cigars, you know, my cousin is in a similar group at another university, so there is precedent for this. I think we're getting hung up on a moral question when it's really not our place.
Colleen?
I guess that would be my advice, is as you leave this discussion and you have time because it's clearly a debatable discussion, please go on to Collegiate Link and look at the clubs as a whole. To isolate one or two clubs would really be more damaging to your PR than to draw attention to one. I'm just encouraging you to keep that in mind, because Doug brought up the other example I was going to bring up. Thank you.
We have hit time. I'll entertain a motion to extend discussion. Representative Williams, or Representative McHenry. Well, that's not for me to decide, though. That's for the representative making the motion to decide. Representative McHenry.
I move to table the bill.
Okay, is there a dissent to tabling the bill? Okay, then we're gonna vote on tabling the bill.
Please vote A for yes to table the bill, B for no to keep discussion going or keep the bill off the table. C, D, or E to abstain. It needs a 50% vote to table for the session. Go until 22 seconds.
Okay, so the bill is tabled. So the bill is tabled. It will be brought up again next week, and if you have questions or further points for discussion before then, I'm sure President Shaw, or Vice President Shaw, or President Agarwal, or anyone else on the Finance Committee will be open to discussing it more. So then we move into the other part of new business tonight, nominations for the Spring 2012 Election Commissioner. Representative Brubaker. We were not voting. Yeah, granted. Representative Ruska. Granted as well. Representative Williams. Not granted. 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 Get out of here. Get out of my meeting.
Denied. Oh.
Representative Butcher. Granted. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to open nominations for the election commissioner?
Yes. So moved.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Yes? Okay. All right. Do we have nominations for the spring 2012 election commissioner? Colleen, yes.
This may be just already an ex facto knowledge, but if you are interested in running in any capacity next semester, you don't want to nominate that name. Does that make sense? You can't run for an office. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
So, are there any nominations for the election commissioner? Representative Thompson.
Albert Chu.
We need an election commissioner. Are there any nominations? Representative McHenry.
Kind of a shot in the dark, but I nominate President Agarwal.
Yeah. Well, I'll make a nomination. Representative Moeller.
I'm going to decline.
Okay. Fair enough, Kevin. I see how it is. Representative Malloy. I decline. Vice President Cruz. Okay. Representative Thompson.
Steve
Okay.
That's it.
Secretary Brown.
I nominate Vice President Shaw.
We're just going to give it to her automatically. She can't decline it. She can't decline it.
Point of order.
Representative Thompson.
They have to be a member
So the candidates right now are President Agarwal and Vice President Shaw. Vice President Cruz.
Nominate Elena Doravak.
Representative Rangaswamy. Vice President Cruz.
I nominate Amy Hahn.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. Well, seeing no more, we'll leave these open for now and come back to this later. Seeing no other business, then we are moving into committee reports. President Agarwal, whenever you're ready.
Okay, guys. So I'm just going to go right to, you can read about co-sponsorships. I'm going to go right to our orientation discussion. I think it went very well. I hope you felt that it was informative. And again, if you have any more questions, you can send them to me. And I think VP Bischoff was very kind in saying that you can try to meet with him or approach him to ask more questions. I think he's very interested in having a direct conversation with students. So you can entertain that. And I just wanted to speak to the format of the discussion that we had earlier, why I decided, and I kind of took input from Colleen and the executive board to have that discussion be in the format that it was, where I simply take questions from you all and then ask them at first. After looking at the survey results that you guys had, you can see some of the results in my report, actually. The results that you submitted, the responses that you all gave for your least favorite parts of USG was inefficient discussions. And so I took that to heart, and I was trying to think about all the different ways where we can improve discussions in GA, improve our meetings. And exec has been thinking about that a lot, also brainstorming some ideas. So the format earlier was an experiment, if you will, to see if we could make that discussion more efficient. My initial thoughts were that it was, as we did end that discussion at about 7:30, as was anticipated. But if you at all did not like how that went, please come and talk to me. It was not my intention to stifle anyone's discussion or anybody's opinion or anything. This was just to have a productive discussion with the vice president. However, I am more than happy to entertain any other ideas for having efficient meetings. So that's just to talk about why we did that. And now for my most favorite part of my report is recognizing outstanding members. So the first outstanding member is for, I would call him a mass funding all-star, in that this representative worked long and hard before the actual mass funding process, the night before, his Friday night, uploading about 123 mass funding documents to an online system. We used Dropbox to consolidate all of our documents. And actually, this representative devised a brilliant logistical system for conducting our mass funding process, which I was absolutely impressed by, very much fascinated. I'm constantly impressed by how much interest this rep takes in the finance system. In fact, he isn't here because he's at finance appeals. That's how dedicated he is, and exec really appreciates that. So I wanted to recognize Representative Colin Williams for his hard work on mass funding and for his dedication to the Finance Committee, so I'll give him his pin. I also wanted to recognize a representative who, before this semester, had never actually played the game of soccer before, and now he's leading our IM team undefeated, and that is Representative Dan Gallo. This whole semester, he's really taken it upon himself to lead the IM team, and not just IMs, but philanthropy. I'm very impressed by his really well thought out emails, and even if we're not able to step up as much this semester with philanthropy, he still keeps us informed and interested in that. And philanthropy, in my past experience, has not been something that USG focused on, so I really appreciate his bringing that to our organization. So thank you, Dan Gallo. Okay, my last point is about the reflection survey. We had a 65% response from the assembly. This is also including executive members. And I would say it's an overall positive response, but then again, when you have a survey that is just kind of like definite answers that you just click in, you can't necessarily get an honest response. And that's why I'm calling out again for any more rep one-on-ones that you'd like to have. I do have 2 scheduled this week, which I'm extremely excited for. but I'm still open to, up until the end of the semester, open to a rep one-on-one. So please take advantage of that. And lastly, I've identified here the favorite and least favorite parts of USG that were most common among all the committees. So these 3 points, making a difference, which is awesome. The people and committee were common responses among all of you. And for least favorite parts of USG, inefficient discussion, unmotivated members, the appointment of new members, and the length of GA was a common response. And so exec will be taking a look at that, brainstorming some ideas to improve upon those. So with that, I'm open to points. I apologize for the long report.
Representative Shaw.
So for the efficiency of discussions, I really like the format that we had for today's speaker. What I was just wondering was, two questions. One was that list of questions presented to the speaker beforehand so he was allowed to prepare for them.
They were not presented to him beforehand. I did give him the focus points, though. So I did not give him specific questions, but I gave him the points of focus, which was social and community development, logistics, and leadership.
Yeah, because if there were perhaps a very controversial issue, like if there was some up there, I think it might be a good idea for the speaker to at least have a chance to prepare for some perhaps aggressive questions that may be aroused by passion.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other points for President Agarwal? Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Hale.
I too took the recent rep survey to heart, and I didn't realize you guys were so upset about how short GA was, so I prepared an hour-long report just to make sure we fill out the time nicely. Kidding. But as you may have noticed, I forgot to announce last week that the SLIG projectors arrived. That was personally a big day. They're pretty cool looking. I kind of sat in the office playing with them for a while. So that's something you can look forward to next semester. Hopefully, both housing and I are moving forward on it, so it should be in place next semester if everything goes to plan. Most things are in the report. I do have one thing via President Agarwal regarding the Leutner smell that I think Levi brought up last week. They're very aware of it. Jim O'Brien spoke to President Agarwal. They are entirely aware of it. They know what the problem is. There's something wrong with one of the pipes not able to handle the amount of wastewater, some sort of design flaw. Unfortunately, it is a serious thing to fix. They're hoping to fix it over Thanksgiving, but that's a hope. Definitely over winter break, so I guess hold your noses for a couple more weeks. With that, I'm open to points.
Points for VP Hale.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the Finance Committee that would like to speak in place of Vice President Shaw tonight? President Agarwal.
So I think JSL is just really appreciative of everyone who came to help out with mass funding, and the appeals dates are below. I think she just wanted you to make sure that student groups were aware of these dates. And I believe she is, while this is required for the Finance Committee to come to these appeals meetings, I believe she's willing to have some other USG members sit in and observe or provide some input. So if you're interested in seeing how appeals work, feel free to attend one of those dates.
Thank you. Are there any points for President Agarwal? Okay. None of our treasurers are here tonight, yes? Okay. Okay. Vice President Cummins.
Hi there. In addition to the few things on my committee report, we'll also be talking about the future of the Undergraduate Teaching Excellence Awards and how we can find our niche. I think everyone can agree that it's important to recognize excellence in undergraduate teaching, and we need to figure out where USG's place in this is. That being said, we're continuing with some of our own goal making, and have a busy week full of committee meetings myself, the Faculty Senate, and I have meetings with Dean Wolkowitz and Vice Provost Feek in case anyone has any input, any questions I need to be asking. Anybody wants to attend them with me, let me know.
Vice President Dooner.
What do you mean about the future of the undergraduate teaching excellence awards?
Well, there's a strong tradition in USG, sort of, because it really depends on the committee each year, on how expansive they are, and even what we choose faculty members based on. So I've seen 3 of them, myself. It just depends on the year and the committee. And then, but at the same token, there's also the Whitkey Awards, which are also, I realized this week, student run, much more expansive. They, go out and see the faculty members if they're teaching that semester. They go out and, go to the lecture, they, interview them. It's a very extensive process. And with the process we have currently, it's just as important because we obviously represent the student opinion on campus, but we obviously need to either find our own niche because we don't want to overlap with, a very impressive award such as the Whitkey. And they have, we give professors, nice plaques. They give out awards. So.
Any further points? Representative Shaw?
Yes, I noticed on your, on the agenda that it said just you committee will be discussing ROTC. Is that the possibility of moving it back on campus?
Yes. This is for Army, I believe. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, so this is, the case used to actually have a strong tradition in ROTC, but it has gone to the past, and the faculty resolved, maybe like 30 years ago, that the ROTC program does not hold the same credit basis that normal classes at CASE are. So basically the program has dissolved, and we have to either go to John Carroll or other colleges around CASE. And this would actually institute a strong, recruiting model at CASE where, the increase in ROTC numbers would definitely increase. So it would become a place for ROTC people to go, not for, people coming here for CASE, academics, and just being an ROTC member. So it's going to be more prominent. But a lot of things have to happen for this to go forward, is basically where it's at now.
Thank you, Vice President Cummins. Vice President Cruz.
All right, first thing, probably most important, I'm not actually having a committee meeting this week. Something came up. I know everyone's chomping at the bit to come to PR meetings because we're awesome, so I'm sorry to disappoint. And as the week after that is Thanksgiving, we're actually probably going to meet Tuesday before GA next week. If you can't come, it's okay, guys. I'll send out an email so you're aware. Secondly, Twing Steady Over, we decided for sure that we are going to be doing like a decorate your own gingerbread men and hot chocolate bar. As far as what a hot chocolate bar is, I'm still waiting to hear back from Twing Steady Over. That was one of their visions, and I thought it matched our gingerbread plans, so we agreed to do that. I think it's going to be awesome. Who doesn't want to decorate a gingerbread man at Twing Steady Over? Seriously, it's the greatest thing ever. Let's see. Committee's kind of hoping to have some kind of casual bonding hangout experience sometime before the end of the semester. I know it's getting a little packed. So we're thinking probably a potluck, I don't know, holiday party or something like that. No dates have yet been decided on, but just keep it in mind. Lastly, Rep Spotlight is back, and by back I mean next week because my laptop is at IT right now. So, yeah.
President Agarwal.
Can I make a suggestion for a bonding event?
Sure.
The projectors that Vice President Hale purchased for us are apparently pretty fancy HD projectors that would be perfect for movie viewing. So maybe a USG movie night with our new SLIG projector for our office. Well, it's not a slick projector. We got our own because we wanted one too. We needed one, so potentially a movie night. With our
I'll see what people have to say about that. I don't know. I think that's a little testy idea there. We'll see.
Any further points for VP Cruz? Okay, thank you. Vice President Dooner.
Yeah, I'll just do it from here. That's all good. Quick board report. So Joel Kraft, our advisor, was at our meeting last night. It was pretty good. We asked him about print to hear. There's been some print to hear reliability troubles lately, so we're trying to move print to hear from student affairs to ITS. If that transition happens, presumably there would be better manpower behind it, and it might work out better. We're exploring that. That's about all the news that's fit to print from IT committee, except unfortunately I have a initiative death to report. Our wireless case cache machines, we're going to need to go back to the drawing board because Blackboard sent us a quote for something very expensive, and we were talking and couldn't come up with a cheap, good way to take money other than using tickets.kstudy.edu. We're going to keep thinking about that, but on a low priority, I guess. Open appoints.
Representative Rangaswamy.
The contract is up this summer, so something will change over the summer.
Any further points? Representative Sabe.
I have a question. Like, with the current case cache machines, like, why can it only be a telephone cord? Like, why can't
So that
it
was
be
the problem. That was the problem we were trying to solve. It's like that due to the actual equipment in the case cache machine. They don't have machines that are, for example, over Wi-Fi. Such a device is $5,000 apparently.
But don't they have like Ethernet ports? Like, why can't you use that?
It's a different type of network, and the machines are not configured to use the network, the Ethernet network. They are on the phone analog line. It's not just a simple configuration thing. It's built into the hardware, and I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's PCI compliance issues or some kind of security issue that might be difficult with that also.
Any final points? Okay, thank you. Parliamentarian McKee.
Hello, General Assembly. My office hours are printed. Also, they're by appointment, so if you want to talk to me but you can't make those hours, let me know. Feel free to anything about, your USG experience or life or anything. My point of the week, basically the takeaway is just please wait to be recognized by Speaker Rudensic before taking the floor. I'm open to points.
Any points? Okay. Before we move into caucus reports, I'm going to make a quick speaker shout out. If the treasurers get their tips and the parliamentarian gets his point, I'm going to make a quick shout out. Next week, we are going to have a theme GA. It's going to be involvement. So, either wear your USG shirt or just show, what you're involved in on campus, whether it's Greek letters or a club you belong to. We're going to keep it casual. So, enjoy. And then moving into caucus reports. Are there any points for me? Yes. Representative McHenry?
Yes. Big things coming out of the engineering caucus. We have a new chair of the School of Engineering. Thank you. Hang on, I have it on my phone. Could you clarify what? He's the BME chair right now. So effective January 1st, 2012, he will be our new dean for the Case School of Engineering. And also this Friday coming up, we have peer advising. It is going to be, it's going to be in Nord 400? Yeah, Nord 400. A bunch of people are going to be there. So come on out. We'd love to have you.
Awesome.
I'm open to points.
Any points? Okay. Representative Mueller?
We don't have a new exciting dean. We have our regular old awesome dean, who we met with last night. And our main points in discussion with him were starting with like alumni outreach and just like career resources in the College of Arts and Sciences, graduate school advising, and various lab issues in different departments. I won't go into depth of those in the interest of time, but if you have any questions for me about them, feel free to ask.
Any points? Okay. Representative Shaw, first year caucus.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fun things going on with the first year caucus. We redid the way that we met and things like that and addressed the issues that we had identified in the beginning during the original planning session, and these include issues with carpooling, physical fitness, how to save money as a first year on campus, and good grades. And as a long-term project, we wanted to do a dinner with the professors for the first year students. So if anybody has any advice or comments on that, I'd be happy to entertain them after the meeting.
Any points for Representative Shaw? Okay. Representative Lindell?
Okay, just a few points before we all go to finance appeals. Tomorrow we're doing chocolate comments, which we do every semester. So feel free to stop in PBL to you know, drop some comments, what you think about the school, enjoy some candy, cookies, and just to say hi to us. That'll be from 2 o'clock till 4:30, and it's just like by the PBL cafe. And also just a little update on the issues we are working on. We are trying to do something about the printing in the computer lab. If anyone has ever been there, it's really slow, so we're going to try to do something about that. There is a rumor that this will be resolved over winter break, though. As for another issue, we're trying to see if we can do anything about reserving the tables. I know a lot of student groups want to have a table available for an event, and we want to make that available either online or somewhere by the information desk. And another thing is we are trying to utilize the TV screens that, like when you walk in the building, have like advertisements. We wanted to see if we could maybe show like greenie arrivals, what's open on campus, anything like that. So if you had any ideas about that, we'd be welcoming to that. Lastly, we are trying to brainstorm ideas to hold a USG Weatherhead event. Since we are now pooling all the funds together for all the caucuses, we were thinking that maybe we can have something big in Weatherhead since we don't really have anything USG sponsored. And with that, I am open to points.
Representative Shaw? Any points? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't believe we have any of our nursing reps here, correct? Yes, okay. Then we are in open forum. Would you like to give us the USG feedback report, Secretary Brown?
Okay, so not too much to report this week. There was a question about how the debit cards that we are piloting this semester are working, concern about the Delbert Express bus stop that was started, and a request for granting access to the music department for non-music majors to Denison.
Representative Mueller?
So for those, thank you for all your input regarding club sports and PE credit. The direction that's probably going to go in as far as what the resolution might look like or whatever is rather than a all club sports participants get PE credit, it's going to be more of a club sports participants can apply for PE credit because this experience varies in different sports and it's a complicated process. But if you have any more feedback from me, let me know.
Representative Lindell. Granted. If there's anyone from the Finance Committee that needs to go to appeals, you have permission to leave. Representative Smith.
Can I make an announcement before I go?
Yes.
If you have anything you want to know more about Cigar Club or anything, email me because I know it's sort of going on. And I feel that there wasn't enough discussion tonight. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, praises, whatever, let me know.
Any other points for open forum? Representative Shaw.
Yeah, so for the green stub on north side, I guess this is towards the student life. Does anybody know if that actually displays content anymore? Because the last time I checked it didn't. And then I think in some of the residence halls and the freshman dorms, it just says Air E2 on next stop.
Any response to that? I think it's being noted by VP Hale. Secretary Brown?
Last year we dealt with this a lot. It was a issue of the fact that Blackboard, Nextbus, and the Case Student Affairs, when they don't use the Nextbus official app for this, so they compete with them to figure out a way to pull down the information without having to pay for the app. So they're in a constant battle of like blocking us and us getting the information back. So it happens.
Representative Rangaswamy? Okay. Any final points for open forum? Vice President Hale?
There is something I forgot to say in my report about the new express route in the morning. I met with VP Jameson on Monday, yesterday. Wow, it's already Tuesday. And I thought it was really cool because it was actually an initiative that came out of the drivers. So the drivers are looking out for you, and I thought that was just something cool to note. So that like it was nobody asking for a greenie stop. It was the drivers seeing a need and offering a solution.
Representative Malloy.
On that same note, I don't know if it already exists. I don't think it does, but would it be possible to get like a Nextbus tracking system for that? Or is that like, would that be in the works if it was made more permanent or what? Because right now I'm kind of afraid to use it because I'm not sure when the bus is going to be there.
Vice President Hale?
Most likely if it stays permanent, but just to clarify when it runs in the morning until 9, and it only makes a few trips, so it's really just to alleviate a peak time.
Representative Feaster?
Do you know how, I've been asked this question a lot because people know I'm on student life, but like, do you know how often the new fast route runs? Like every 10 minutes, 20 minutes? I have no clue. Does anyone know?
Representative Thompson?
I've used it a few times, and the way it's worked for me is that they pull out and you're gonna wait there for like 5 minutes, and then they go it's literally straight to Adelbert, and I assume they just take Cordell back. So I can't imagine it'd be more than 5 minutes.
Okay, so it's just the one like bus.
No, I've actually seen 2. Because my route
Okay.
is actually like I can see where they drive.
Nifty. Okay. So okay, cool. Thank you.
Representative Thompson?
So did you confirm that they only are supposed to run till 9, or is it 9:15 like the original email said?
The email's probably right.
Representative Alvarado? All right. Secretary Brown?
One last thing, guys. If I could get a quick thermometer for how you guys like the new format of GA with the business going first. So just thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't, and if you don't really care.
We didn't get the full benefit of it tonight because we had our speaker going till about 7:35 or so. But do you guys feel like it's going to be useful in the future?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Colleen, would you like to give a report?
No report.
Okay. Announcements. Representative McHenry.
More swim team meets. There's another one this weekend. Representative Fitch and I are going to be, well, she's going to be diving, I'm going to be swimming again. It's probably our toughest meet of the year. It's a quad meet, I believe, with Kenyon, Grove City, and Gannon all coming to us. 3 really tough teams, so it's going to be a dogfight. So if you want to see people swim really, really fast, then come out and support us Saturday at 1 p.m.
Mr. Vaughn.
Something coming from the Diversity and Inclusion Committee as well as USG because we are co-sponsoring. The Share the Vision Committee is holding the International Coffee House this Thursday at 7 p.m. in Twing. There's going to be international food, dancing, performing. Janice will be performing. We also have nice globe stress balls. I have a whole bag right here. If anyone wants them, I do ask that if you take one, you come to the event. You can get them after GA.
Thank you. Representative Thomas.
Just for the engineer caucus to meet before we head over to the
President Agarwal.
I have 2 very quickly. This Friday, I mentioned this last week, the SEC Open Forum in Twing Atrium at 12:30, open to all students. We will be providing pizza. Also, that evening, the Sigma Psi sorority is sponsoring it's holding its annual Mr. Crew male beauty pageant. It's always really, really funny, so we encourage you to come out. We are selling tickets all week in Nord and Twing.
Representative Moeller.
I have two things I feel like I should explain in addition to my regular announcement each week. The first being what election commissioner is. The reason people giggled when I was nominated is because I did it my freshman year. So freshmen, you guys can do it. It's a very stressful position, but I learned a lot from it. It's really shaped who I am as a leader today. But you can only do it if you're not running for elected position or if you're going to try to be appointed secretary or something like that, which is what I ended up doing. So it can be a really rewarding experience even if you're not like a senior or something. Second thing, I know I mentioned earlier that I'm dropping out of my speaker role. The reason is I was recently elected president of Sigma Nu. So that's why I'm doing that. I didn't want to just like, screw that, I don't want to be speaker anymore. It's there's a reason. Thirdly, Nacho Tuesdays tonight at 11 p.m.
Representative Thompson. Representative DeBaz.
Also on Friday night, Mecca is having our fall hot cake. So if you want to come and eat as much Middle Eastern food as you can, and it's funded by USG, and listen to a lot of Arab music and dance, and it'll be a lot of fun. And you can support one of our USG groups. So,
Representative Shaw.
There is the Gospel Choir concert, BOG, Saturday, 5:30 at Amasa Stone Chapel, which is like the first building on the quad. Be there and have lots of fun. There's going to be two choirs, BOG and another one that's coming in to sing with us. We're doing about 9 pieces. It's lots of fun, $5 admission. Be there. It's going to be a great event.
Representative Gallo.
So yeah, as Divya pointed out, I'm just going over philanthropy stuff right now. Mr. Crew on Friday at 7 p.m. in Strosacker. Tickets are $3. Okay, never mind. Anyway, Drag Ball is being hosted by Spectrum on Saturday. So you guys all know what like a drag ball is, right? It's like where people dress up with opposite gender clothing on. I don't know. It's hosted by Spectrum, which tries to raise awareness with like things like that. I don't know how to explain it.
It's a really fun event on campus.
Yeah,
That's all you need to know.
It's in Carlton Commons from 7 to 9 on Saturday. If you want to do this, let me know. I'm kind of interested to see.
They offer very good prizes.
And unfortunately, Divya said the soccer team was undefeated. We did suffer our first loss of the season. And it was in the second round of the playoffs, which is, better than what people expected. So I'm proud of us. We finished 5-1. I think throughout the season we outscored the other teams like 21-8 or something like that. So it's pretty good. I'm going to send out an email later, more comprehensive. Let me know.
Parliamentarian McKee.
One quick procedural note is please use your microphones whenever you speak. We do indeed get viewers at home and people who watch the videos afterward, and it is impossible to hear you otherwise. Also, Caseman's Glee Club, Thursday, 7 p.m., Harkness Chapel, free concert.
Representative Gallo.
That reminds me, for those like events that like are like not as big as the other ones that I might not know about, that you guys want to tell the assembly about, send me emails, because I'll include those in my emails. Thank you.
Representative Fitch.
I have the Pizza Olympics results, so everyone. For the People's Choice, the winner was Pizza Bogo. Shocker. The second place was La Pizzeria, and third was Guys. And then because there's 4 different judging, like 4 awards, the best cheese was the Jolly Scholar, which everyone is like mind blown by. And then second was Pizza Bogo, and actually there's a tie for second for the cheese was with Giorgio's. The best meat, the first place was Pizza Fusion, second Guys, and third Pizza Bogo. And for veggie, first place was Guys, second Papa John's, and third was Giorgio's. So, a little interesting mix-up this year. And a lot of fun ballots, too. I have a couple over here. I got elephants drawn on some of them. I have a very funny, just weird, like, drawing of a guy. And it's just very odd. Some funny comments like, only good when under the influence of toxins. And also, I applaud the excessive use of meat. And some other just fun drawings if you want to look at them.
Thank you, Representative Fitch. Colleen? No. Okay. Representative McHenry?
Move to adjourn?
Any dissent?